Right, we're rolling.
Recording?
We're rolling.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mark McCleskey, Ocean City Beach Patrol, 1971 to 76. Crew Chief, 43rd Street, 45th Street, 94th Street. I'm sitting here with Tom Perry, Ocean City Beach Patrol. How you guys doing? We're recording right now.
Sorry, I didn't know.
Ocean City Beach Patrol.
See you, George.
And we are talking with Tom Perry. And Tom, I'd like to ask you to say the same thing I just did about your stint.
Well, started in 1974, green shirted on 92nd Street, and worked my way up to sergeant, lieutenant, and retired in 1993.
How many years is that?
19 too many, but it was 19 great years, and glad to be here with you tonight. That's for sure. This Alumni Association, it's going to endure.
Now, Tom, I want you to tell us just a few stories about your early days. Tell me your first year again was what year?
It's 1974 was the first year.
1974. So I've been around for a little bit at that time.
Absolutely, and you showed me the ropes. I'll never forget the Tennessean group. And Mark, you were the ones that brought the Tennesseans. We always looked up to the Tennesseans. If there was a party, it was only one place to check out, somewhere at the ranch.
Well, you know, you're very kind to say that. You know, I was on the phone with our buddy Dave Dickey today, and Dave was telling me that in 1972, well, you weren't here in 72, we were having the big parties then. They changed the law in 1973, and that's when they started tightening up. But they didn't tighten up enough because we still continue.
Absolutely. You did the ones that were first class. There was that vision. There was you in the background. You had Fish there. And you know, if he was out there and he appeared at the window like the Pope, the party was on.
The party was on, that's right. Now, I want you to tell me some hero life stories.
I tell you, Ray Abear just happened to be in there earlier, and Ray was never forget down the inlet. I had pulled a guy out, and he came from the urban areas and was just learning his way around. And he decided that after he blew a little tank, he wanted to take a swing at somebody. So the next thing you know, Captain Shoaf, the Silver Fox, and Ray Abear came down there, and the next thing I know, there's Captain Shoaf happened to be in the superior position, holding the guy down and teaching him what he needed to learn.
That's our Captain George.
We love him.
Now you've moved on through your 19 years, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the National Association of Lifeguards.
Well, fortunately,
did I say that correctly?
You're pretty close. The United States Life Saving Association is a national organization for all ocean lifeguards, and we've carried on a tradition with the USLA. And right now, as this year, we brought back the United States Life Saving Association Mid-Atlantic competitions in Ocean City, who did a tremendous job. So we've got the spirit and emphasis on lifeguarding back. So all that happened.
Well, as you know, we're starting a lifeguard association now, and John Jarvis is going to be our leader, and we certainly want you to be a big part of this, because I know that you can bring in a lot of members for us.
It'll be win-win. There's nowhere but up, and I tell you, with the work you're doing, we're indebted. That's for sure.
Thank you so much, Tom. You're the best.
Great.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Come over here.
All right, we're rolling.
Okay. Mark McCleskey here interviewing Harvey Evans, the legendary Harvey Evans. Harvey, I'd like to get you to give everybody kind of your name, rank, and serial number so we can begin our conversation.
All right, Harvey Evans. I grew up in Catonsville, Maryland. I moved to the beach in 1976. I was on the Beach Patrol from 1978 to 1982.
Very cool. Now, I want everybody to know that doesn't know Harvey, which is a small crowd out there, but Harvey has done an extraordinary job keeping the Ocean City Beach Patrol alumni groups together. Tell everybody a little bit about how you started to do that and where we are now.
Well, originally I was the first president of the USLA chapter in 1982, and it kind of went by the wayside in the 90s, so I took the chapter over and started some fundraising events. I started the Captain Craig Swim in 1984, and then we did an event for Mitch Mariana, who was the first Beach Patrol lieutenant, the Run Swim Run. We had a 2.25 mile swim, and then we also took over the Sun Fun Run when the Beachcomber gave that up. So we ran those events till the early, I guess, 2004 or 5, and gave them back to the Beach Patrol, and I think they only have 2 of them still. They have the Captain Craig Swim and the Mitch Mariana Run Swim Run.
Wow. And then also talk to us a little bit about your Facebook, because I know that you've done an incredible job.
I started a couple Facebook pages for the alumni. I have 1970 to whenever they started, and then think I got 70 to 89, and then 80 to 99. I have an alumni, 3 alumni pages, which I'm still trying to upload pictures as I find them.
So you've got 3 different Facebooks,
Right.
and one is for each decade type of thing.
Kind of like a 20-year decade, right?
20, okay.
In
very
case some people
cool.
bridged a couple, like I worked in the 70s and the 80s, so I kind of feel
Or the late 70s, and
right.
so tell me once again the years that you were on the Beach Patrol.
78, 79, 80, 81, 82.
5 years.
5 years.
Very
My
cool.
last year, we switched to red sweats the second week of June. 2 Jeeps drove down the beach and threw us 2 pairs of sweats and a red bathing suit. The next day, trunks were no longer blue; they were now red. We had to spell blue.
Wow.
So that was
How
kind of
about that?
strange.
Yeah, it was strange to me. I'm still wearing my blue grippers. as a
Right,
matter
I
of
know.
fact.
And I actually started my first summer and wore a bikini and with tube socks. It was a great look.
So
I remember Denny DePaula pulling up in a Jeep in a bikini, tube socks, Jack Purcell's, a hat, and a badge. He says, "Do you think I can arrest anybody?"
now, tell us about some of the, your hero life-saving era. Like any pools you can remember that stay with you.
No, I just remember my last summer I was crew chief at Crew 3 and I had a huge rock pile and I just called it herding cattle because I just blew the whistle all day. And I think it's kind of funny now they get all the people out of the water because I would just at 5:25 before we blew off, I would just get them far enough away that when we blew off at 5:30 I could get to the car before
somebody's
started bouncing off the rocks.
Very good, very good. Well, Harvey, I want to thank you personally for all the work that you've been doing. And as you know, we're starting an association right now. John Jarvis is going to be our leader. We definitely want you to be a big part of it. And thank you.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, Jeff Deeds. Hey,
All right, rolling.
We're rolling?
Yep.
Okay. Mark McCleskey here with Scott McIntyre. Scott, you are, tell us your name, rank, and serial number, all the stuff about you, just, the year you started and all that.
My name is Scott McIntyre. I was on the patrol from 1984 to 1988, and also from 1992 to 1995. I was a sergeant on the patrol in 88.
Sergeant is cool.
Best job I ever had.
Yes, it
Absolutely,
is.
best job I ever had.
Awesome. Now, tell us about some of the pulls you might have had, some memorable pulls that happened.
Well, there was one year. It was just an amazing year for the number of rescues we had. I was sitting the 48th Street crew, and
By the way, I was crew chief on 45th Street.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And we had talked about that last night,
Yep.
and it was one of those days that a tropical depression had come off the Carolina Capes and shot up to the northeast. Of course, great weather, but a huge 10, 12-foot overhead surf. And we had that jetty right there at 48th Street.
Know it well.
And you'd have that surf rolling in, and it just created just a monster rip running on the north side of that jetty. You'd be standing in ankle-deep water, you take 2 steps, and you're in the trough, and people were just being blown out every time we turned around. And of course, we had always used landlines in competition, but we had never actually used them in
Total
actual
action.
rescues. And it got so bad, we were making so many rescues and so many people were getting sucked out so fast because remember you had the Ocean Club there and the Ocean Pines Club, the beach was packed. So we finally set up the landline. And for about 2 hours, and we've got photographs somewhere of this, we were swimming out, getting 2 or 3 people, and then we actually were incorporating not just our crew, but actually fathers and parents on the beach to pull the landlines in and get these people in. And it was just an amazing day. It was one of those days that the next thing you know, the day was over, and I've never been so exhausted in all my life. You just kind of sit down and starry-eyed about what just happened.
That's totally incredible. And I do remember 48th Street and that riptide deal.
Nasty.
Now
It always has been.
let's move on to something a little more fun. Now I remember you shared a story with me last night, was the story of all stories about your buddy that was a little bit overweight and a little bit slow, but he was chauffeur made him retest.
Oh gosh, John Nielsen. He wasn't overweight. He was a bodybuilder.
Okay.
He had really gotten into bodybuilding. He was just massively strong. He wasn't much taller than us, but he weighed about 260 pounds and not an ounce of fat. But he couldn't swing his arms to swim to save his life anymore. It was amazing. And it was one summer, and a third of the returning patrol hadn't passed the retest swim, and 8 were crew chiefs. And Captain Schoaf, to say he was not happy is an understatement. And they'd gone through 2 tests already and they'd failed. And this time at the Whiteside meeting, he was just, if you don't pass this time, I'm handing out pink slips. And you can hear Show saying it. He was so hot. So we go walking up, and the 20-some-odd guards and the crew chiefs go walking up. And they look like a bunch of guys on death row walking up to the beach and everything. And we get up there, and John's already in the water. This big, massive, muscular guy, and he's stretching and everything, looking like a swimmer. He's in waist-deep water and everything. And they move them all out, and the whole patrol's watching. And the 20-some-odd guards are out there that hadn't passed. Go, boom. And all of a sudden, one of the guys just takes off like a shot. He's flying. Boom, 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 boom. He goes up, makes the turn at the pier, and he comes in. And Shof, of course, is there with his stopwatch and everything, and we're all standing there. And in comes John Nielsen. He's first. He's 2 minutes ahead of everybody else. He goes like 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And Shof stops. He looks at his watch, looks at John, looks at his watch, looks at John. And John just kind of sheepishly goes, I've been practicing. And he goes on. And what nobody knew at that time is that he was so afraid of losing his job, he went out the day before and bought a pair of flippers. And as soon as the meeting was over, he ran up to the beach, jumped in the water, put the flippers on. And if Shof had said, all right, everybody out here, you're going to start in here, he would have been dead. But nobody did. So he was able to get out there, and when he turned around and came down through the pier, he ditched the flippers and swam the rest of the way in. True story.
That is the best story ever. I even told Lucky Jordan that story, and Lucky and Shof were best friends back then. So anyway, Scotty, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a
That's
pleasure.
great. You are an awesome dude, man.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
And we are rolling.
Thank you. Mark McCleskey here with Jeff Dietz. Jeff, tell us your dates you were here, your positions, and all that.
I was from 1985 to 1988, and my first year I was down in the Castle crew. My crew chief was Guy Bevan, best crew chief I've ever had. Nothing
Totally
personal,
awesome.
Scott. Nothing personal, Scott. And then my second and third years I was up in the condos. I was out at the Atlantis, right next to the Sheridan. So I was one stand up from the best body on the beach contest every Sunday.
Yeah, cool.
And my last summer I was crew chief down on 58th Street.
And you're a crew chief on 58th.
Yes.
Very good. I was crew chief on 45th,
Okay.
71 to 76.
Gotcha.
And I was also up at the condos
Okay.
my last year, 76.
Okay.
Now tell us, one of your rescue stories, some of your pulls.
I'll tell you my
most memorable.
first pull rescue story was when I was, I think I sat with Johnny Rhodes, and somebody was in a rip. It was a basic a rip 101. Go get that guy out. So they sent me in, and I'm down doing a tug of war, trying to pull 2 people with my buoy, and they're on the beach laughing at me, saying, "No, you dum-dum, you just go out with them and take them back around." Well, I'm sitting there fighting and fighting. I think I was in the water for 20 minutes, but I got them in.
So you brought them in straight
I
through
brought
the
them
rip.
straight through the rip. And they said, "Don't you pay attention to what we teach you here?" And
Now that you're a real man, so you're
I was an
a
idiot.
real man just
Right.
goes back and fights the rip-tide.
Right.
You know, the rest of us guys, we do the easy way. We
Right.
go around.
Right.
Very cool. Very cool.
But no, I got I've been surfing ever since I started guarding, and I like to thank Captain Craig for putting the salt water in my veins, because that started it. And to this day, I mean, my kids are surfers, and I married a guard, Allison Lane, who's Allison Dietz now.
Your wife is a guard?
Yeah, she was a guard.
I want her over here too, by the way.
Well,
We'll go find her next. But at any rate, so tell us how you met your wife.
Oh, I met my wife on Bayshore Drive in 1985. I guess she tested like 3 or 4 days after I did. And, I'd see her walking down carrying her buoy in her sweats, and I was like, "Hey, I just passed the test myself." And
Totally awesome.
yeah, we never dated back in those days, though, because it was a long story. But I was surfing Puerto Rico back in winter of '97 or something. I ran into her there, and the rest is history, as they say.
That's totally awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
I
Very cool.
I could talk all day.
Let's go get your wife.
And we are rolling.
Rolling. Hi, this is Mark McCleskey, Ocean City Beach Patrol. We're here today with Tim Norris. Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself. Your name, how long you were on the Beach Patrol, and your different positions you've had.
I first was on the Beach Patrol in 1973, And I was a guard. I was a crew chief for maybe 2 years on 45th Street and 24th Street, and I was made a sergeant in 1980, along with Butch, his son, the fellow's son right there.
Right.
And that's the time frame. And I met my wife, who's standing over there that you can't see right now, but
Very beautiful.
yeah, she's very beautiful. She's we met on the beach patrol, and when I was a crew chief on 45th Street, which, by the way,
Which was my stand.
which he was a crew chief as well on 45th Street.
Now that we're moving in that direction, tell us a little bit about your first day on the job on 45th Street. The year was 1973.
Yes, I was a 16-year-old guy. My hair was a lot longer than it is right now. It was actually about down to here, and I had a mustache and everything. And a fellow by the name of Mark Landry gave me the test, and they said, if you can pass the test, you can be on the beach patrol. I passed the test, and my older brother was sergeant or lieutenant at the time. And so I passed the test. They sent me up to 45th Street to be what they called a green shirt at the time, which was the rookie position. You put on a green shirt, and you learned how, and you had to wear a green shirt until
Pass your semaphore test.
until you passed your semaphore test, and you were a full-fledged guard. Well, I get to my stand. I got there probably a little bit early because I wanted to make sure that everything was going to be good. And I was supposed to meet this guy named Mark McCleskey, who I heard was from Tennessee, and he had been on the beach patrol for a long period of time and had a good reputation. And so I get there, and immediately a girl comes up to me and she says, "My husband just had a heart attack on the beach. What do we do?" And as a 16-year-old, I really wasn't sure what to do. And so I started looking around, and I saw Mark and another guard right next to him meeting in between.
That was me and Dave Dickey.
Dave Dickey. I remember
Right.
Dave Dickey. And
Yeah.
well, I went over and found Mark. We all went running up to this guy's blanket, and Mark and Dave Dickey started doing CPR on the guy on my first day as a 16-year-old on the Ocean City Beach Patrol. And let me tell you something, that was a good introduction to the Ocean City Beach Patrol. And he did CPR on this guy, and he brought him back. And I thought to myself, it's kind of scary, but I think I want to keep doing this.
Well, you did.
So,
You did. You
yeah,
pursued
but you were
on.
the guy. You
Thank
brought
you.
him back to life.
Me and Dave Dickey.
that was an amazing day in my life.
Well, thank you. Well, today is an amazing day in my life to get to meet you again and have you tell the story that I remember
Yeah.
like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, Tim Norris, thank you so much.
No problem.
All
Nice
right.
to see you all.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Mark McCleskey sitting here with, what a treat for me, by the way, the women of the Ocean City Beach Patrol. And we're going to start here. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, the year they were here, and their positions, starting here.
All right, I'm Paige Fisher. I served in 81 and 82, along with my sister, Pat Everett. She'll introduce herself. I was a lifeguard.
80 to 88, guard, crew chief, and sergeant.
I'm Val Comegys Hicks, and I was from 90 through 95, 6 years, and I was a guard and a crew chief for 3 of those years.
Awesome.
I am Wendy Miller. I was guard 1990 to 1995. 1995 as crew chief for 1 year on 58th Street.
Tina Betz-Gert. I was a guard 91 through 93.
I'm Donna Jean Durska Pearson. I was a guard from 79 to 82 and just a lifeguard at the inlet and on Condo Row.
Colby Kaufman. I guard from 1994 to present. I was a crew chief for 2 summers, and in 99 I was promoted to sergeant.
Impressive.
Awesome.
And I'm Allison Lane Dietz, and I guarded from 1985 to 1988. and I was a lifeguard.
Very cool.
I met my husband on beach patrol.
That's awesome. Now, first of all, once again, it's such a privilege to be here with these girls. One of the things that, being a 1971 to 76 guard with no girls on the beach patrol, I would like to ask some questions about any trials or tribulations. How was it like entering into this kind of all-boys club? Anybody?
Well, I have to say, in '79, I went to take the test and they told me they didn't need any more guards. And so I found out when they were having the next test, and I just showed up.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the first girl that was a lifeguard on the beach patrol, I remember.
Susan Kane. Yeah.
I remember
77.
Captain George put her on the rock pile.
Yeah, I was in the inlet.
And she did a fabulous job, I might add.
Yes.
So.
It was fun on the inlet.
Now, tell me about some of the rescues that you guys might have had, some of your more memorable rescues.
Fortunately, I never had any terrible ones except for the scars on my arm when I tried to pull somebody in, and it was very rough waters. The water was deep, so I hit the rocks not knowing that they were there.
On the
it was
rock
a rock jetty.
The
It
rock
was a
pile.
rock jetty.
A rock jetty, okay.
So I got some scrapes and cuts, but back in the day, you just put a little bit of cleaner on and you were done. Today we go to the doctor with a million shots.
Right.
So outside of a few scars, that was my biggest.
That is a big deal.
My probably most dramatic pull was one that, by coincidence, my parents happened to document on the camera. It was just big nor'easter, rough surf, swam out with the buoys. Every 3 strokes you went out, you went back 6, and threw the buoy over. Finally got out to what I thought was my victim, and the guy said, "You're not after me, you're after him." And I saw swim. Finally got the guy. Finally had him, attached to the buoy, and I just said, "Hang on, because we're going for a ride." We tumbled through the waves, finally got him in safe. And then it was like hours, and when I brought him in, he was white as a sheet. And like hours later, this fully colored individual said to me, he said, "You saved my life today."
Oh.
And I still remember that. And
That's beautiful.
so that was kind of neat. Other than that, it
That's
was
awesome.
pretty pleasant, and being an officer on the beach patrol. And
I remember when that happened, actually.
The worst issue I had to deal with was just using the bathroom, which I chose not to use too often the toilet seat was up. But other than that, I was treated.
It's still that way.
That's where it all starts and
Royally.
stops, the toilet
And
seat.
Butch was one of the guys who always treated me with the utmost respect, so I'm proud that my son works for him now.
Well, Butch Arvin is the best of the best. And by the way, you don't know this, but he was a kid on my beach.
He was my buddy.
Yep. Butch Arvin's the best. So, any other stories?
My most memorable rescue was actually in November of '94. So I was working as a waitress at the Carousel.
Your first year?
My first year. And do you remember that?
Yes, I did. I was going to say.
9 kids got stuck out in the ocean during a hurricane, and I was getting off work, and the security guard came in, so I ran out and took my shoes off. I had a tux on. I swam out. I brought
this
one
was
boy
after
in.
hours.
November 19th.
November? Ooh,
1994. And
Wow.
I was up for a Carnegie Mellon Award and Rescue 911 call. It was a pretty.
Wow.
So I say you're a lifeguard all year.
That's
Once
right,
you're
you
there,
are.
you're just there. So
That's
that's
very
my
cool.
most memorable.
That is very cool. November's a little cool then,
It was
too.
very cold.
Literally cool.
Little
Yeah.
hypothermia there.
Cool.
So.
Very good.
I got to share with her earlier, my best rescue moment, and others have said it was their best. I was practicing for nationals to do landline, and of course I was the victim, the smallest person on beach patrol. So I had the landline in my car, and we had this huge rip on 59th Street. I was the crew chief on 58, and we had this huge rip on 59th Street, and we were in and out. Finally, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go get the landline out of my car. That's what it's there for. So Warren Williams drove by on the
God
four-wheeler.
rest his soul.
Yes, and I waved him over, and he came over, and I said, Warren, I'm gonna go get the landline out of my car. I was like, this rip is huge. We've been in it 15 times today. It's huge, He said, go get it. It's a good idea. And I was running back from my car with the landline, and I heard 2 whistles, and I knew Warren was in it. And I was like, oh no, he's 60 years old. This rip is raging, And I started running back with the landline. I clipped it on my buoy, And I swam it out, and I sent to the guys that sat next to me, landline, and they were like cheering and jumping up and down, so excited because we've never done it, you know. They came running down. I swam out the buoy to Warren, who had like 10 people out there. I mean, it was a raging, and he's like, all right, everybody, hang on, because you're going to get the ride of your life, because everyone on the beach patrons, you know, the guys next to me were already down, and we pulled everyone in, and it was the coolest thing. And, you know, Warren, he had been on the beach patrol for 40 years. He's like, I've never done a landline rescue. I was like, me neither. Like, were we supposed to do that? You know, he was like, it was just the coolest experience, and it is something that stuck in my head. And, you know, and when he passed away, it was something that was like him and I did, and he was such a great guy.
And be with you forever.
Great experience, yeah.
Great. Okay, we have time for one more. Anybody?
I have so many.
That's
It's hard
right.
to
That's
really
right.
think of one in
One in
particular.
particular.
I mean, I'm thinking of Warren because I do remember a day that I had a huge rip. I always sat in front of a rock pile or a jetty, and there was a huge rip, and I had 13 pulls, and it was only like just after lunch, and Warren came down. He's like, do you want me to close the beach? And I was like, well, I don't mind going in because it makes the day go by faster. And he said, okay, well, we'll leave it open then. He said, I'll hang out, and, you know, if we need to go in. And so we just left it open, and I had to go in a couple more times.
That's what we do in Ocean City. And down in Florida, if it's a bad day, they just shut the beach down. In Ocean City, we are a real beach patrol life-saving organization. So at any rate, that pretty much wraps it up. Myself being the luckiest guy here tonight to be with all these Ocean City Beach Patrol babes. That's got it. That's wrapped. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are rolling.
This is Mark McCleskey, and I'm with Mike Perry. Mike, tell us the years that you were on the patrol and your positions and all that.
I was on the patrol from 1986 to 1993, and I ended up as a sergeant.
Very well. You talk a little more. You were a guard for how long, and then you were crew chief.
Crew chief, youngest. Actually, this is funny. Youngest crew chief ever. Youngest.
How old were you?
19.
Cool. Very cool.
Youngest guy to get his advance. Youngest guy to get his instructors, and that's only because my roommate was doing it the year that before, and he's like, "Well, you have to come to all the tryouts."
Very cool.
So I did, and then guarded that fall in '86 and got my advance and instructors then.
That is so impressive. By the way, I was a crew chief at 19 too, just for the record.
There you go.
So we got something in common here, huh? Very cool. At any rate, Mike, I want you to, I know there's some incredible things that happened to you when you were a sergeant. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about that?
August 3rd, '93, there were lightning storms all over the beach in Ocean City, Maryland. Like where you were on, say, 60th Street, black lightning everywhere. 2 blocks away, bright and sunny, people out on the beach. And I was in the process of getting people off of the beach and was actually struck by lightning while driving a 4-wheeler.
Wow. And I understand that is very, very huge thing that happened. Tell us about what happened after the lightning struck.
I was a quadriplegic. I was in shock trauma for 36 days.
Well, let's back up. You're on the beach, the lightning struck. They were doing CPR for 37 minutes.
37 minutes, defibrillated me 4 times, and then I woke up 13 days later in shock
Captain
trauma.
Schoaf was there. What you remember? It was all filmed. And we're going to have this. We're going to have this on our website coming soon. But anyway, go ahead.
There's a fellow who was taping it from the Sandpiper Dunes with his scanner. And you see Captain Schoaf go to his vehicle and get on the radio and say, "Unit 1 to base." And they say, "Base, go ahead." And he says, "Zapping him, no response yet." But the 2 guards who did CPR wouldn't stop, I found out later. And I'm just happy to be here. I mean,
well, it's a blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, 37 minutes CPR.
Yep.
That's huge. Well, it's a blessing to know you and to meet you.
No problem.
And I look forward to working with you as we move through.
So do I, Mark.
That's a wrap. Okay, sorry.
Nice job.
Thanks, Bush.
Okay, cut it off.
found out, captain of the beach patrol. He was also the youngest captain at 16. He also was offered the job of being Tarzan in the movies, and he turned it down, and then this kid named Johnny Weissmuller came along and got the job. Pretty impressive. So I want to give you now Bill Pacey.
Yeah.
Really close. Swallow that mic. Okay, thank you. I was told I could speak until about 9:30, but then I was told it was cut to 3 minutes. I'm just going to give you a couple of years of experience. I joined the patrol and there were 9 of us. There were what now, 229? And our pay was $7 a week. And you worked 7 days, and that was before sunglasses. But in 1943, I ended up on the Royalton Beach, and one of the things that always sticks in my mind is a mother coming down, and she had learned my name, and she called me Billy, and she said, would you watch my son while I go to the store? And I said, sure. So the son's about 9 or 10 years old and has a bucket and a shovel. And a couple of days later, comes down, Billy, would you watch my son while I go to the store? I said, sure. And again, the little boy's playing with me, and finally one day, this went on for a couple of days, a couple of weeks rather, and on a rough day, I would have to tie him to the guard stand so that I could get in the water. That young man grew up to be one of our own beach patrollers, and Clark Moran, who signed up above the 50. You're with me, I knew that. And I hope your mother's upstairs in that heaven enjoying her bourbon. That's what I think she was doing, partying. 1944, Jim Parker was captain, and he came to me one day and said, I want you on 6th Street tomorrow at 7 a.m. We're bringing German and Italian prisoners of war down from Bethany to clean the beach. And I said, okay, you going to be with me? And he said, no. I said, you take care of it. I said, aren't any of the other guards going to be here? He said, no, you take care of it. So 7 o'clock rolls around, 2 Army trucks come up 6th Street and dispatch about 25 or 30 Italian and German POWs. They were stationed up at, or bivouacked up at Bethany Beach. And I sent, and there were 2 armed guards with M1 standing on the boardwalk, spit shine on their shoes. They didn't want to get in the sand. And I said to these guys, they were, I don't know how to explain it, but they were about 17 or 18 years old. They had been brought over on troop ships after the Normandy invasion in 1944. And I sent half of them to the left, half to the right, and I said, when I blow the whistle, you come back here, and if you do a good job, you'll take a swim. And all these smiles came up. I don't think they'd been in the ocean if they had ever been for years. And they had little burlap bags, and they put stuff in them, and they cleaned the beach, came back, and I said, now, if you go swimming, you got to take your clothes off. And they did. And they jumped in. I said, you got 1 minute, I'm going to blow the whistle, you got to be right back here. And they went in, and they were frolicking around and smiling and all over the place with joy. And the 2 MPs are going bananas. I said, don't worry, you know, they're coming back. I blow the whistle, they come back, they pick up the clothes, and I hear, you know, Gracias. And what's German for thank you? Danke. Danke, thank you. So that was another experience. In 45, I was a junior in high school and I got a call from the mayor's office to come down and be captain for 45. And I said, what happened to the other guards? And they said, well, we're just not hiring them back. And it was a little bit of that. A lot of them had left for the service by that time. So I got together a crew basically of high school kids, except George. Is George here? George was married. No, he's not here. Charlie Prophet was his name. He was a married guard, and we really got ourselves in shape physically I had an instructor's license for teaching the basic, giving them their senior lifesavers badges, and we swam and we ran. And I said, you just got to be careful because we're all untested. And that went on in 45 until about the middle of July. A fellow named Tommy Tongue, that's an old friend of mine. Tommy Price came back from France. He was in a lieutenant's uniform, 82nd Airborne, patch on his shoulder, walking on a cane. And he had broken his back in a parachute jump in France. He had been captain in 1942 and basically taught me how to get into the water and how to do this and how to do that, and he was my mentor. And he said, I can't swim yet, and I can't walk in the sand or run in the sand, but I can ride a bike. And how about giving me your job, and you hit the beach? And I was delighted. Number one, I looked up to him so much. And number two, I really wanted to get back and get away from some of the responsibilities of being a captain. So for the next few years, we did that. One last thing, and that is we had set a date to have the lifeguard dance August 14th, 1945. And tickets were going very slowly down at the Pier Ballroom. And as you all might or might not know, World War II ended on August the 14th. And the Pier Ballroom was a jam. The champagne was all over the place. Politicians got up and made speeches. Everybody stayed up till 3 o'clock. And the next day, every guard is back on the job on time. And I can't tell you how much I enjoyed my 7 years down there. And I live in Maine now. I don't go swimming because it's too damn cold. I just take my pills, have my rum at high noon, and enjoy myself. So thank you very much.
Interview today with a guy that is working on a project for Maryland Public TV, and the title of his project is what impact did the opening of the Bay Bridge, Chesapeake Bay Bridge, have on the Eastern Shore and specifically Ocean City? And what happened prior to this, I got an email from Sandy Hurley, the curator at the Life Saving Station, and she had told me about this project and that Mr. Paulson was interested in anything.
I was in between my sophomore and junior year of high school, and again, just a quick kind of just check on everyone. I'm sure a lot of you remember the first time you ever climbed up on that wonderful 8-foot platform and got to look out, and you just felt like like alive and part of the world, right? I remember the first time I ever climbed up on that platform. I stood up on that platform on 10th Street, and I remember looking out at the ocean. The George Washington Motel was behind me, and I remember thinking to myself something I learned in 10th grade English class just a few months before. And it was a quote from Emerson, and he said, "Whatever you think about all day long, that's what you'll become." And there I was, standing up on this Ocean City Beach Patrol, and these kind of Speedo-y blue trunks, and I'm thinking to myself, whatever you think about all day long, that's what you become. And it scared me to death, because I thought I was going to become a girl, because that's all I thought about all day long. It's great to be on the Beach Patrol, wasn't it? That was a great time in our lives. Thank you, first of all, a lot of you on this side of the room, because, all of us on this side of the room, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here. And what I mean by that is, I can remember Jerry Gary when I was 6 or 7 years old, and I helped out at the beach stand at 28th Street. And I remember seeing this guy walking down the beach, and I go, I want to be like that guy. When I get older, I want to be like that guy. And then I remember the year before I took the Beach Patrol test, Scotty Howe was at 24th Street. He was a crew chief. Went to the University of Virginia. He was a great goalie. And I remember talking to him, and he ran me through the whole process. What do you have to do? Where do you send your letter to Captain Craig in St. Louis? So he'll respond back to you with this little card that tells you what your test date is. And that was really great. And then the opportunity the day before I took the test to go down and to talk with Mark King at Middle Inlet and have him walk me through, here's what will happen tomorrow, here's what it looks like if you want to pass, you have to do these things. And just all the people that helped along the way. And then I didn't have a place to stay. I was 16 years old. My parents didn't think I was going to pass the exam. And I came home. They were staying at the Mayflower Hotel. And I walked in and I said, Mom, Dad, I passed the beach patrol test. And their faces went ashen white. And they said, well, you got to go home tomorrow. I said, what do you mean? I'm working on a beach patrol. Well, you don't have a place to stay. And I remember talking with Captain Craig, and he was kind enough to open up his home because I was the barracks at that time. And I had an opportunity my first summer to live with Dick Stewart and JP and a bunch of other guys that were beach patrol guys, and it was $15 a week, and we made $93, and it was just a great, great part of our life. As it is, I know, for a lot of it. The 70s were great. Mark McCleskey and I were talking about it last night because it was the advent of disco, which I actually didn't really get. But Mark DJ'd in 1975 at Groucho's on 8th Street, which was the first job I ever had working at a bar, but I was only 16 years old. But somehow they just let you go in and work, and kind of, it was Ocean City. It was really cool. It was just a great place to be. And there were places like, just a little walk of memory lane for us, there were places like the Hurricane Nightclub, the Paddock Nightclub, Finnegan's Rainbow. I ran into the guy that started the group Rain. For those of you that remember the Beatles tribute band, I ran into him a couple months ago. Harry Trainum and Pilot, Fager's Island opened that year in the mid-70s. It's just a great time to be a part of this special group, the Ocean City Beach Patrol. I also remember some great nicknames. There was Spendo, a lot of guys over here have great nicknames, Schmeck, How, Sprout, Harvey, I mean, there's just Flemoosh, Weeconey, he's not here with us tonight, but Weeconey, Smitty, Lurch, I mean, just great names. Condo Patty, for you, Condo for you. G-Dub, just, you know, it's a great time. And I also remember, and Butch talked a little bit about it tonight, but, you know, we were proud of when we got our green shirts off, and I understand that they changed that around a little bit now, but it was great to be a green bean and earn that off, and lucky to earn that off because you did other things and ultimately got through the semaphore test, and then you became a real guard. And it was a really great thing to be part of that. So thanks to all of you that built this for us, that we could have an opportunity. Thanks to all of you that built it for the guys that are currently doing it. It's a great organization, a wonderful place to spend your summers, as we all know, and I'll turn it over to Harvey Evans to talk about the 80s a little bit.
For Mark Warren, I'd still be in Catonsville and I'd be a caddy at Rolling Road Golf Club. I'm supposed to talk about the 80s. I moved here in '76 and took the beach patrol test 3 days in a row and didn't know how to swim. So I took a couple summers off, and then I finally swam well enough to pass the test. I think we'd be forgetting somebody if we didn't talk about Warren Williams. What I remember most about Warren Williams, my first summer he was 39 years old. I don't know how old I was. But I was a crew chief at 7th Street, and Rodney Yates sat next to me on 5th Street and was sick, and they said, we're going to send you a replacement. Well, that summer we had switched from blue to red, and we went from metal buoys to plastic, and we didn't wear bikinis anymore. We wore these funky running shorts that looked like bikinis. So my replacement that day was Warren Williams. He showed up with a metal buoy, a gray shirt, and his red shorts rolled up to look like a bikini. And we had an altercation on the beach that day, and Warren did some kind of karate action with the buoy and put the guy in the solar plex and dropped him, and we took him off the beach. But I miss Warren Williams. He was a great guy, and he was the Beach Patrol. I'd also like to tell a great story about Captain Shove. We all had Captain Shove stories, but Captain Shove was from Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and he said that he was from the Eastern Shore, which I knew differently because there's no Germans on the Eastern Shore. But he had a policy about giving people rides. Even if you lived in Salisbury, he wouldn't give you a ride. And one fall, I was working with two other guys, John Huffman, who just opened up Johnny's Pizza Place, and I can't remember who else it was, but we broke down right where the new Home Depot is, at about 9:45. And I knew the captain would come by, and I think he drove a Fairlanes or some kind of Ford car with his wraparound sunglasses. So I figured if we couldn't get the tire fixed, that he would give us a ride. And there was no traffic at that time, and here comes Captain Shove. And I'm waving, and I'm waving, and I'm waving, and he just blew
blew right by. Just blew by. So we get down to the office at 10:15, and he's at the top of the steps, and he says, "You boys are late." I said, "I know, Captain. We were broken down. Did you see us on the side of the road?" He said, "You boys have parents. I don't give rides. You can call them." I said, "Captain, my parents live in Catonsville." He goes, "I don't care, you're late." So I know never to ask him for a ride. And I also want to say something tonight about Hal Gamble, who won the swim tonight. He was probably one of the best guards that was on the Beach Patrol, one of the best competitors that never competed. And the last thing I want to talk about is the day we switched from gray sweats to red sweats. It was I think it was a 2-day process, but 2 Jeeps and a truck. I think the truck was 551. Drove down the beach and handed us these 2 brilliant pair of red sweats and a red bathing suit. And we'd always worn gray or white. And I lived with, actually, I think there was 20 of us in a house. Mark Warren, Vic Velton, everybody. And I get home at the end of the day, and Mark thought the sweats were too red. And we took all our sweats and put them in the washing machine with some bleach. So, we showed up at the first meeting and they looked great. They looked like they were 2 or 3 summers old. And the first thing Captain Craig said was not to bleach the sweats. To take great care of them, but I had some seasoned sweats after the first week. But I guess that's all I'm going to talk to you about the 80s. Somebody else can take forward. Thank you. Okay.
All that about the sweats, Harvey, I would have, that's so Project Runway of you, I would have given my perspective. But first of all, I would love to thank Vic for including the 90s tonight, because we feel so welcomed, and we are old enough to be here. I will be 40 in 1 week from today, so I felt like we could come and join you all, and it's been fantastic to hear all the stories.
Speak up just a little bit, Wendy.
Okay, I'll hold it a little bit closer. I am proud here to stand here tonight and speak on behalf of women that were on the Ocean City Beach Patrol. I was a guard 1990 to 1995, and there are many women that paved the way for me, beginning in 1977, including one of my good friends, Colby Kaufman, who is a 17-year. There are women that have been on a lot longer than me. It goes back to the day I tried out for Beach Patrol in May of 1990, and went out and I did my test, and I did the pool test. Exhausted after the pool test at the Castle in the Sand. We rolled over to the interview afterwards, and I sat across from George Shove. And he looked at me and smiled and said, "You did a great job, honey, today." I said, "I know." He said, "But you gotta understand," and believe me, I can't do George Shove justice. He said, "There are things in the ocean that shit bigger than you." And from then on, he was one of our biggest fans, and was one of the best characters I have ever had in my life. And I have to write down all this stuff. I have talked to the women that I guarded with, and the women that have come after me. And I'm so proud to say, 1977 was the first woman, and I walk out on the beach with my young boys today, and there are over 20 women on the Beach Patrol. But I've talked to the women that I guarded with, and we all came to the same conclusion. And I said, what was it like being a girl on Beach Patrol? And we said, it was no different. We were all the same. Like Captain Shove said, he said, "We're not men, we're not women, we are lifeguards." And we were. And we guarded the same, we did the same tests. We were, we sat together, we sat next to each other, we went out on the same rescues. And it was a great experience, one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. And I will, I would encourage my boys to do it.
I'm Mark McCleskey, and I'm here with Brew Brubaker, a real legend from the past. Bruce, what I'd like you to do is tell us the years you were here and what your positions were as you went through that.
Mark, I started in '65. I was a guard up north. I don't even recall the street exactly, but in '66 I was on 6th Street. In '67 and '68 I was on 6th Street. In '69 I was on 6th Street for a little while. And then trained Mike McGurk for a week, and then made a sergeant, and then...
So you went from, that's right, because you went straight from a white shirt to an officer.
Yeah, we didn't have crew chiefs back then, so...
What year was that?
'69.
69.
Yeah. And Mike sat with me for a week, and which I couldn't quite understand because I trained, I was kind of a trainer, trained a lot of guys in '68, '69. And but Mike sat with me for a week, and I wasn't at 7th Street. I couldn't quite figure out why he's sitting with me for a week because I didn't show if he was a slow learner. I told him he's ready to go, and he said, "Okay, well let him sit with you for a few more days." And a few more days went by some more, and I asked Shof again. I said, "What's the story here? I told you he's ready to roll." And so then somebody, I don't remember who was driving, drove up in a Jeep and said, "Brew, get in the Jeep." And I'm trying to figure out what I do wrong, and. So I left Mike at the beach, at the stand, and drove downtown, made me a sergeant. And I was a lieutenant in 70, 71, and 72, and I left in 72.
Totally awesome. Now I want to comment on something that you may or may not remember, but I remember in 1971, you got my green shirt. You gave me the test, and I know you probably don't remember that because that was I was one and I was many and you were one. But I remember it was you and Sergeant Shapanik. And you came down to the beach and you gave me the test. I think it was 128th Street. And the test was, congratulations, you passed the test, which was kind of clever on your part. And that whole congratulations word was a long one. And then I'd also like to say that Sergeant Shapanik, Bob Shapanik, has talked to me countless times and countless hours about how you guys used to really be the renegades of the North. Have you got any stories you can share with us on that?
Well, Bob and I used to, the north area was slow, and on rainy days or some very slow afternoons, we'd hang around after work and body surf and cheat each other and see who would go the farthest, and it was quite a grim. So, but we did a number of pretty ridiculous things as well. But we've been friends for a long time since then. We're still.
Now, what is it with the popsicle guy? You used to like. That poor popsicle guy, what was going on with that?
There was a guy, if I remember correctly, there was a guy that we used to hit up for ice cream. As we would head north in the morning or come back in the afternoon, we'd hit him up for ice cream and tell him he was getting a ticket for being parked where he was without a permit. So he'd give us some free ice cream. And that probably wasn't very ethical, but that's what we did.
Very good. Is there any particular pulls you remember that are memorable pulls or memorable rescues?
I remember the first time I had to do CPR, and
that's a big deal.
And it did that maybe 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times CPR?
Yeah, and,
that's huge.
All of them when I was an officer, and on several occasions.
Did they make it?
Yeah, on the first time I was with Jerry, Gary, and myself, and I think this was a Maryland state trooper, I think, that died a few days later from he had had a coronary, but he had come back long enough to. And then a few other times I remember taking 2 young girls and 2 young teens to Salisbury in the ambulance, because we stayed with them and we took them to one of the aid stations. I forget where it was. Right. First aid.
That was kind of a common thing. I remember doing that once myself.
Yeah. And so I remember on one occasion I sunk the white Jeep. I went out in the evening. This was after the captains were gone. It was after Labor Day, and there was just a few of us still left, and I hadn't gone back to school yet. And so I took a girl out in the Jeep one night, and the tide was extremely low, and the ocean was flat, the moon was out, and the sandbar was exposed. So I drove through the trough, out of the sandbar, turned south, and we were driving down the beach. And I had my arm over the back seat, and I'm just tooling along, and her name was Carolyn, I still remember this, and I said, Carolyn, this is great. And about that time, I drove under the pier, and I had neglected the holes around the pilings, and we drove right into a deep hole, and water was immediately up to our waist, and I reached for the radio, and it shorted out just as I was about to call for help. So I climbed out of the Jeep, went up on the boardwalk, and got 8 or 10 guys on a lark to come. When I told them, can you come help me pull the Jeep out from underneath the pier? And I saw a meter maid that I knew, and I asked her to call the city garage, even though it was about 9 or 10 o'clock, and there was someone still there. And I said, you need to tell them to come get me, because the Jeep is sinking. And so she did, and in the meantime, I got the guys, we went down, we pulled the Jeep out of the water, pushed it up on the beach. Here came one of the guys from City Garage in a front end loader with a chain, and hooked the chain up to the Jeep, which was dead, the engine was dead. And so, you know, kind of the moment was kind of lost, of course, with Carolyn, and she waved goodbye at me as I steered the Jeep being towed by the front end loader. And the next morning, the City Garage, his name was Jake Schowell, I think, and he was a maintenance supervisor, and he called me on the phone, and he said, Sergeant Brubaker? And I said, yeah, that's me. And he said, your white submarine's running, you can come get it. So I've always remembered that story. First, because the Jeep was white. So.
Well, Brew, I want you to know you're very special to me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
There's only, you know, one time in your life you get to lose your green shirt. And I lost it to you.
Okay. Well,
thank
you. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so much. All right, that's a wrap. Hi, this is Mark McCleskey, and I'm here with Mike McGurk. And Mike, I want you to tell us a little bit about, you know, the times you were here and your positions on the Beach Patrol.
1969 through 1972. Started on 7th Street with Mr. Brubaker training. I was his go dog. He just said go fetch, pointed in the right direction. That was 7th. Next street was 18th down by Chapanic. He was the crew chief. And then moved up to a real nice beach, 16th Street, where the beach took a bend, and so the chair was right up next to the boardwalk, and there wasn't a girl that went by that I didn't bump a cigarette off of, but as a means of introduction.
That was a pretty cool stand right there on the boardwalk.
Well, that was awesome.
Now, can you tell me, so like one of your, some of the pulls that you had, the more memorable rescues?
There was one on 7th Street where it turned out to be a New York stripper that had to shake my leg to get her off. It wasn't even in deep water.
Now that didn't sound like a rescue to me.
No, it wasn't. But she made the screams and everything else to somebody
To
had
get you out
to
there,
do something, yeah.
Well, I know you had some tough rescues out there.
Yeah, not much memorable after that. It was 7th was the best beach the first year for pulls.
Because that's a pretty crowded beach.
Yeah. 13th and 18th after that. I was on 22nd as a crew chief. That was the scariest part for me. Had a green shirt north of me, wasn't you, and he was sending a slow message, and he forgot to look over me when all the chairs cleared and send a turn. So by the time I finally read his message and turned around, I could not see a guard for like 3 or 4 stands.
They were all in the water.
All in the water. Jumped on the Beach Boys bike and ran around the corner all the way down to 13th Street before I could find out where they were at. There was a big rip out off of 11th Street, and enough guards out there to look like a merry-go-round.
Let me tell you what, that is an incredible sight, isn't it? I mean, when you look up and all the guards are down and they're in the water.
It's scary. We just talked about it in our little meetings in there about the teamwork and the need to have that backup. When there wasn't any there, that gets nerve-wracking.
Well, now Chapanic, he was your crew chief?
He was a crew chief on 17th Street when I was on 18th and 16th.
So you guarded right next to him?
Yeah, we were
Do you have any memorable moments about crew chief Bob Chapanic?
No, we surfed every day after work, and that's about it.
You had a big time, lifelong friend?
Oh yeah, no, we were high school buddies and came down here together. Spent 6 years rooming together, and still lifelong friends to this day.
Yeah, he's a super guy. And so are you. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a wrap. Thank you.
Cut out any.
You did the ones that were first class. There was that vision. There was you in the background.
Facebooks.
Right.
and one is for each decade. The story of all stories about your buddy that was a little bit overweight and a little bit.
You just go out with them and take them back around. Well, I'm sitting there fighting and fighting. I think I was.
You passed your semaphore test and you were a full-fledged guard.
And so I found out when they were having the next test, and I just showed up.
And I was like, oh no, he's 60 years old. This rip is real.
Getting people off of the beach and was actually struck by lightning.
Nice job. Yeah, pretty impressive. So I want to give you now Bill Pacey.
Yeah. 1944, July, a fellow named Tommy, I don't go swimming because it's too damn cold.
On the Eastern Shore and specifically Ocean City.
First time you ever climbed up on that wonderful 8-foot platform and got talking with Captain Craig, and he was kind enough to open up his home because
Right where the new Home Depot is, at about 10:15. And I knew the captain would...
I know, he said, but you gotta understand, and I can't.
Something that you may or may not remember, but I remember in 1970.
And I had my arm over the back seat, just tooling.
Hi, this is Mark McCleskey, and I'm here with Mike McGurk. The ones that were first class. There was that vision. There was you in the background. Facebooks.
Right.
And one is for each decade. The story of all stories about your buddy that was a little bit overweight and a little bit.
You just go out with them and take them back around. Well, I'm sitting there fighting and fighting. I think I was.
You passed your semaphore test and you were a full-fledged guard.
And so I found out when they were having the next test, and I just showed up.
And I was like, oh no, he's 60 years old. This rip is real.
Getting people off of the beach and was actually struck by lightning.
Nice job. Yeah, pretty impressive. So I want to give you now Bill Pacey.
Yeah. 1944, July, a fellow named Tommy, I don't go swimming because it's too damn cold.
On the Eastern Shore and specifically Ocean City.
First time you ever climbed up on that wonderful 8-foot platform and got talking with Captain Craig, and he was kind enough to open up his home because
Right where the new Home Depot is, at about 9:45. And I knew the captain would...
I know, he said, but you gotta understand, and I can't.
Something that you may or may not remember, but I remember in 1970.
And I had my arm over the back seat, just tooling.
Hi, this is Mark McCleskey, and I'm here with Mike McGurk.